Assalamu alaikum. Welcome back to another edition of Community Conversation at Masjid Muhammad Noor. I'm your host, Mujahid Muhammad. We're honored to be here today with our dear brother from CAIR, our brother Selaedin. But before we go into our interview, we want to just congratulate all of you who are celebrating or acknowledging New Jersey as Muslim Heritage Month. We know there are quite a few around the country, but January is Muslim Heritage Month. So we have a series of events that's going on, inshallah, throughout the month. So stay tuned for another announcement later on, inshallah. So I'm honored to have our dear brother here with us. Welcome, Maksut, and let the community, inshallah, introduce yourself.
Bismillah. Thank you, Imam Jazakallah khair, for having me. Really excited. Excited to be here. So for those who don't know me, my name is Selaedin Maksut, as the Imam introduced myself. And I'm Executive Director of CAIR-New Jersey. So CAIR is the Council on American Islamic Relations, America's largest and oldest Muslim civil rights and advocacy group. And we operate out of the New Jersey office. Our office actually is here in Newark on Broad Street. And we've been there about 2 years now. And our office has been operating for, I think, over about 20 years, almost 20 years. Yeah. And excited to be here. Just like I'll have the invitation.
So I guess we could start there. Like, what is CAIR in relation to the work that it does, the advocacy that it does, and the importance of it?
Sure. Yeah. Of course. So CAIR is very similar to groups like the ACLU, which is the civil rights organization that protects the civil liberties, civil rights that are granted to all citizens, all residents of this country, which includes freedom of speech, freedom of religion, these fundamental rights that protect us as citizens, allow us to exercise our rights without government intervention, freedom of press, freedom to assemble. All of these things allow us to live freely without any infringement. And so that allows us to have masajid, so we openly practice our faith, any religion at all. And we can also be openly critical of anything and anyone. That's free speech, right? Free speech allows us to say or do anything. And so if any of this is being infringed upon by government, by employers, by other institutions, CAIR steps in to protect the rights of the American Muslim community. So we offer free legal services if anyone is facing discrimination, harassment, intimidation because of their race or their religion, which are protected categories, then we would intervene. We'd offer legal guidance and representation. And this includes all sectors of public life. So that could be the universities and public school students who might be facing issues in the classroom or on their campus. Or it could be in the employment sector. Your employer is infringing upon your right to practice your faith, or is giving you a hard time because of your faith or your political views or your race, your background, your ethnic background, etc. And then it can also just be out in public, for example, like if someone's out shopping, or if they're out and about anywhere on the streets or in shopping centers, etc. And if they face harassment, if they face intimidation, if they face discrimination, we would intervene, right? And we would offer legal representation. That's like the bread and butter of what CAIR does. That's the legal services, yeah? And then there's that advocacy work that you mentioned. And that is representing the Muslim community's interests with government. So working at the federal level, the Congress, and then working at the state level, the governor's office and the state house, and then working at the local level, like the municipalities, the cities, the towns, Newark, Jersey City, Patterson, Cherry Hill, Edison, etc., all across New Jersey. We work to make sure that the American Muslim community, their concerns, their interests, someone is championing that. Someone is working to advance those interests, to champion their values, their priorities, their concerns. So that means everything from advancing some legislation that is favorable to the Muslim community, or even pushing back against legislation that might hurt the Muslim community. And we can get into a little bit of what that could be. So that's kind of what we do. And then the third category of CAIR's work is like the media representation. So you have the courts with the legal, and then you have political work and like the halls of power, you could say, in Trenton and Washington, D.C. And then you have the media work, and we all know how important the media is. Right? I mean, this is a podcast, right? It contributes to like the media, social media, news outlets, etc. This is where the public opinion is formed, where people learn and have information there's public conversation, there's different ideas being shared, there's a difference of opinion and discussions and arguments. And that's why the media is so important. So we believe that we have to have a Muslim voice in all different aspects of the media. So we try to offer our perspective, and we try to be featured in print, TV, social media, local news, national news, even international news. And we try to say, hey, this is the perspective of the American Muslim community. This is what we think, and this is our, our thought process, and this is our opinion, and here you go. And we challenge the status quo, or we challenge any racists, or we even at this point in time, especially the Zionist operation that infringes upon our rights or is hurting our community, or anything that might be causing harm to American Muslims, or politicians, institutions, or just speak positively about what our values are, what we care about, etc. So all this work is the civil rights and the advocacy work that we do day in and day out. And so we have a professional team of a little under 10 people that offer these services. So we're a charity, we're a 501c3 organization, like the Masjid, like any charity group, like humanitarian relief organizations. And so we operate on the contributions from the community, and sometimes grants as well help us do our work. And that's it, these are our services. So legal, advocacy, political work, and media work. And we also do a little bit of youth work, but that's more secondary, and you could say we foster the next generation of American Muslims, young leaders, so that they can take on the mantle and be prepared to enter these fields, become the future lawyers, become the future politicians, become the future advocates and activists and journalists and reporters, to really fight for what our community believes in, right? To protect the future of Islam, the future of Muslims in America, right? We believe in this, our home, this is our country. Many of us either chose here or were just born here. For whatever brought us here, we're here. This is our home. And we believe that we have to fight to improve the conditions of these cities and these towns that we live in. And it's our obligation, right? This is what our Deen teaches us. And so we try to be of benefit to society, and we try to contribute positively. And that's kind of like what CAIR's whole mission is all about.
That's excellent. Excellent. Very laid out how you broke it down, the different components of the organization. And one thing that came to mind is what made you get into this? How did you get into this?
Yeah.
And then maybe one or two challenges that you've embraced so far being in this role.
Yeah. So prior to me joining CAIR, I've actually, this December, alhamdulillah, or well, no, it's January. So it's flying by. Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. Yeah, January 2nd. Yeah. So this past year, December, was my 6-year anniversary with CAIR, alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah. And prior to joining CAIR, I was doing Islamic studies in the academic field. So I did my BA and my master's in Islamic studies, and then I quickly transitioned after I finished my master's right into CAIR. That was 2019, at the tail end of 2019. And my studies were focusing on Islamic sciences and these things like political philosophy in Islam, and what does Islamic law and governance look like. So that was like the academic study, these are like what most scholars pursue. But then I thought, I really, I'm a very hands-on type of person. I'm a very engaged in person. I really want to be able to see and make a change. So academic studies are great, but a lot of that conversation gets stuck in the library or in small groups and conversations amongst scholars and academics. And I wanted to be able to make a difference in society. And so that's why I pursued CAIR. Because the way I see it is CAIR takes my studies, takes the Islamic values and teachings, and implements it in real world, real time. It begins to change and move the needle to improve the condition of our ummah here through these different services that we outline. And so I think, alhamdulillah, this is one of the best ways to invest in the future for Islam and Muslims here in our own country through these efforts. And so CAIR is that avenue where I get to do that, and with my team, and I think there's so much potential in New Jersey, right? And mashallah, we have such a rich history that not many states have, where our Muslim community here is old. There's generations that have been here, and that's including the Black Muslim community, that's including the new waves of immigrants that are always coming. So there's a richness in the diversity and the history in the robust nature of our community in New Jersey and the New York area. And so we have so much potential, I think, to do great things. And I feel like we all have to contribute and do our part. And for me, this is like my avenue to do that is through CAIR and through the services it offers.
So what have been some of the challenges in this position? Yeah.
So some of the challenges, subhanAllah, there's
victories too.
victories, alhamdulillah.
Yeah.
I mean, victories, of course, like, every day, alhamdulillah, is like a victory that we get to like continue to offer these services and we get to, fight for Islam and Muslims. And like, it's an honor for all of us to be able to do that. And we work together. And one of the things we try to do is try to build unity through the masajid, through the communities, build bridges, right, within the Muslim community, but also through our allies who are non-Muslims. So Latino community, secular groups, Jewish groups, Christian groups, you name it. We try to build friendships with them and fight for shared, causes, common ground causes. And we see a lot of that, especially as of recent, where many of us are really fighting to protect free speech. And so one of the battles that we're currently undergoing right now is there's a bill in the State House that if it were to pass, it would conflate the criticism of the state of Israel with legitimate anti-Semitism. So anti-Semitism is bad, we condemn it, it's horrible, it's racism against Jews and Judaism is prohibited and is wrong, right? Racism in Islam is prohibited. But the criticism of a foreign government, of a political ideology like Zionism, of the policies of the Israeli government, that's legitimate free speech. We should all feel free and feel open to be critical of a foreign government, especially one that's committing a genocide, right? So those two things can't be conflated, right? And unfortunately, this bill tries to do that. It tries to accuse those of anti-Semitism just because they're critical of Israel's policies or government's actions. Yeah, we're trying to fight that bill to make sure it does not pass in the State House, because if it does, it would be used as a tool to attack students, to attack academics, to attack really anyone. It could be used by government agencies. It could be used by government bodies like local, state, and federal. And it could be used even by corporations or really any entity. It could just point to a definition in the law and say, this is giving us the means to reprimand you, to punish you because you've been critical of Israel, because you spoke out in support of the Palestinian cause. And so this definition is going to give us a reason to up the charges against you, to increase the degree of punishment against you, because it claims your actions are anti-Semitic. So we're actively fighting that bill. And so far we've been successful. Every couple of years it comes up in a different fashion, and they tweak it and they change it and they try to push it through the assembly. But ever since I joined, we've been able to defeat it. Right now, we're concerned it may come up again in a couple of weeks for a vote in Trenton at the State House, and we're actively working to fight that bill. That's been a bit of a challenge as of recent.
Real quick on that, what are some things that I guess the Muslim community or people in general can do to combat?
Yeah, thank you. So one of the ways is our voices are so important, and elected officials want to hear from us. So if more elected officials hear that there are constituents who are concerned with this legislation, you have to speak up, it would move them. And if they know that there are people who are in opposition to it, they would not vote in favor, they vote in opposition to it. So, for example, when you see an email action alert, submit that email action alert to be able to notify your representative. Call them. We encourage people to do phone banking or to call your rep. If you know your assembly person or your senator, give their office a phone call and just have them document that today someone called in opposition to the anti-Semitism bill, and express your concern that it's a free speech violation. And if you're looking for more language on how to do this and what that looks like, you can go onto our website, CAIR-NJ.org, or you can go onto our Instagram or Facebook page, usually CAIR-NJ, on both of those platforms, and you'll be able to find more information there and what language you can use when you call your representatives. So phone calling and emails should not be underestimated. They're very powerful tools, and it's great that we have access to our politicians. You're not going to speak to the actual representative, you're going to speak to his staff, right? But that staff records that information, and they communicate that back to the representative. And so that's first. Step number one is calling and emailing. Step number two would be, if you have capacity, if you have time, we actually encourage people to come with us to Trenton in the upcoming lobbying days. So we're going to be in Trenton on January 8th and I believe January 12th. On those 2 days, we're going to be protesting. We want to be visible, we want to be seen, we want to be felt. We want them to know that our community across the state, from North, Central, South Jersey, wants to protect free speech and wants to fight against this bill, and we're calling our legislators to vote against it. So that's like step two, is that visible representation through protesting in Trenton. And then step three is always like, if you feel like we can't do any of these things, well, I mean, step one, everyone can do, right? Everyone can call and email. But of course, contribute to CAIR's work, because we're the ones on the ground really leading this charge. So contribute, make dua for us as we continue to fight this and protect our community's freedom of speech. And then just follow us on social media as we continue to fight this legislation.
So we'll take a quick break, pause for the calls. Just a station identification. We're here again at Maksut Muhammad North Community Conversation. We're here with our dear brother Selaedin from CAIR-NJ. Is our media, y'all ready? We're gonna have a quick commercial break. They're gonna share with you some products that we have for sale here at the masjid to support the efforts here, and we'll be right back.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Nishan Sankofa. So today we have the Chew detergent heavy duty. It's halal, so we all know it's made from a Muslim. We have 101 loads saying you can use this for 101 loads of clothes. But other detergents, see this small little cap. Other detergents, they have bigger caps so you can use all of it and keep using your money. And as it says here, it says remove dirt, brighten fabric, and leave a fresh, clean scent. So this shoe detergent, the shoe detergent costs $20. And then we have the double journal. We have the Muslim journal, and we have the pocket Muslim journal. So we'll start with the Muslim journal first. You see, you can read, and it tells you about the events that's happening around the world, and articles written by people from Maksut Muhammad North and near this location. And then we have the pocket Muslim journal, where you can write your important stuff like a calendar. So you can mark your important days, and then in the back you have your notes, just in case you want to write something. Then you have personal data, stuff about you. And then we have New Candy by Muslims. It says Katydids. New candy, and you can buy it for only $20. And I forgot to mention, these two are, this is 20, no, this is 5, this is 20. 3. This is 5, and then this is 3. And then we have the Muslim flag. See, us Muslims have our own flag, so we don't have to worry about other flags. It's had shaped like Quran, like pages, and then it says La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah in Arabic, as we know the Shahada. So if you want to become a Muslim, just say that. Assalamu alaikum.
Yes. So thank you for that quick, brief commercial. Again, here at Maksut Muhammad North, we have several products that help us support the efforts here. So as we jump back into the conversation, as we finish up for the next 10 minutes or so, there are some particular issues, as you mentioned, some in relation to freedom of speech. What about some of the things in relation to deportation, things in reference to, I know there's another big concern with, what they used to call the Mosque Watch and suspecting people from being a part of terrorist groups and stuff like that. Can you just speak briefly to that, inshallah?
For sure. Thank you. Okay, so this past year, 2025, with Trump in office has been crazy. I mean, we're reflecting back on it, and it's like every month was a new crisis. And there was like constant fires being put out because of the new policies he was introducing and the new, laws and legislation, and the impact it's had on the community has been crazy. I mean, thinking back month by month, the difficulties that have been put upon all minority groups because of the result of his legislation is really crazy. But yes, ICE is included in that category, and the impact ICE has had on the immigrant community is it's so disappointing and so saddening to hear about the stories of families being torn apart, of people being locked up here in like Delaney or in Elizabeth, and so many who continue to be locked up for months on end. And in so many different cases, I mean, there are some cases where people were, targeted because of their pro-Palestinian advocacy. In some cases, like the very more famous now story of CAIR-NJ, who was actually from Paterson, New Jersey. She was at the Columbia protest, and she was targeted for her pro-Palestinian advocacy, and she's now in detention, I believe, in Texas. And yes, she's in Texas, and she's been there for quite some time. She's the last activist to still be in detention now that the rest of them have been mostly released, like Mahmoud Khalil and Dr. Badr and many others. But unfortunately, Lakaf from our own state is still in detention. So we are raising awareness about her issue. We're calling on our legislators and our elected officials to also use their platform to speak up for her, and to just make the story be known so that we don't forget about her, and we don't allow our government agencies to sweep it under the rug. Instead, we're going to pressure them to release her because she is unjustly detained. She did nothing wrong. Her crime was supporting Palestinian cause, right? So it's just one example of when the government takes action against pro-Palestinian activists. And on the other hand, you also have people who immigrated here and may have some issues with paperwork or whatnot, and the government has exploited that and has taken action against them. These are not criminals. These are not people who have committed any crimes or any violations of laws, but the government's very radical, very extreme attack on immigrants has put so many in detention, and it's this dehumanizing process that has unfortunately even impacted the Muslim community. I think people think this only impacts the Latino community, and that's not true. The Muslim community is very diverse, and we have many immigrants from all different backgrounds coming from all over the world, right? And they have also been impacted by the ICE raids and the ICE infringement. And so what we do at CAIR New Jersey is we raise awareness about this issue. We pressure our elected officials to address this through policy change. We don't offer immigration services. That's not our forte, but we can refer people out to immigration attorneys, and then they can take the case from there. Or we have partners in immigration work that offer those services, so we can refer them out to those organizations. But we do try to intervene where we can. And in some cases, we can offer letters of support for any of those who are detained, in case that might be helpful, and present it to a judge, where a judge may consider that as a piece to support the person's freedom. So there are different ways. So if people are facing issues with ICE, we recommend that they contact our office, and we can put them on track to find someone who can help them, or we could possibly intervene depending on the case. And then the other part of your question was
in relation to the you mentioned about I said the watching of the mass shootings. Like
okay, yeah. So unfortunately, FBI spying, government overreach is still an issue, and especially with Trump. So we've noticed more FBI calls, FBI knocking on your door, both personal, places and masajid, and even at the airports too. So CBP, Custom Border Patrol agents who are stopping Muslims at the border while coming back from overseas, and they're being detained for hours on end, and their cell phones are being confiscated. And they're being asked questions that are really inappropriate and things that you should never have to answer, like which method do you follow? What are your political views? Are you affiliated with any terrorist organizations? These are all inappropriate questions that no one should ever have to answer, right? and it is beyond the basic fundamental questions that everyone gets asked at the border, like where are you coming from, where are you going, how much cash do you have on you, do you have anything in your bags that's like prohibited, they don't allow certain goods to be brought into the country. And if you disclose all your paperwork and you offer basic answers to those questions, that's it. You shouldn't have to answer any more questions about what's your opinion on 9/11 or what's your opinion on Trump or Israel. Those things are no good. You should never entertain any of those questions. So if you get asked questions like that by CBP at the airport or at the border in Canada, you just say, hey, I can't answer those questions. Like, I don't feel comfortable answering those questions. I respectfully decline to answer any of those questions. And if I'm not being held or detained any further, I'd like to go. And if they insist on detaining you, you can request for an attorney to be present, and you can say, hey, I'm not speaking any further until I have my lawyer here. And at that point, you are free to just remain silent. You are free to remain silent, and you do not have to answer their questions. You should not answer their questions. That is really important for people to remember. Because if you answer their questions and you think, hey, I'm innocent, I didn't do anything wrong, what's the harm? I'll just answer their questions. No, because you could actually put yourself in a position that might actually harm you. So for example, something for everyone to know, it's very important, that government agents, FBI agents, CBP, etc., they are by law allowed to lie to you. But you are not allowed to lie to them. So if they lie to you and they make up a story or something, and then you're caught trying to interpret what's going on and you're confused, and you may say something that might be impartially correct or impartially true, that could actually hurt you. And if you answer a question that they've already asked in a different way, you could be caught or accused of lying. So you be very careful as to what you say, because they could interpret or twist your words in a way to try to trap you, right, and use your own words against you. So we advise, just for your own safety, not to answer any questions, especially not to answer questions about other people. If you get asked, do you know so-and-so? Do you know this person, that imam, this brother, that sister? Do you have your phone numbers or emails? Do not offer any of that information, because you could be hurting them as well, or hurting yourself. So if they continue to investigate and question you, just say, hey, speak to my lawyer at CAIR-New Jersey, and then we offer that representation for you for free. We don't charge for any of these services. So if you do get asked by FBI or CBP, just say, call CAIR-New Jersey, and we'll be able to connect you to our lawyer, who will then facilitate a conversation with any federal agent if need be, if it gets to that point. So again, FBI, any of these agencies, if they come knocking on your door, at home, at work, or at the masjid, just respectfully refrain from engaging with them. Give them our phone number, or say, call CAIR-New Jersey. They represent me after you speak to us, of course. And yeah, that's the advice we give everyone. Right now, it's very unpredictable, the direction that our government is going in. And we've already witnessed people be locked up because of their pro-Palestinian advocacy. There's a very famous case, Sami Hamdi, where he got locked up in California, right? And he's a political commentator. He's a UK resident, a national, and he was just traveling here on a visa, doing a tour, and he was locked up by ICE for nothing more than his pro-Palestinian speech, right? And so it can happen to him. It can happen to a lot of people. And citizens, of course, they have further protections than foreign nationals, but we don't know what direction Trump is going in. So we really encourage people to be mindful, use their right to remain silent, and call us if you have any issues with law enforcement, even if it's local law enforcement. There's guidance online, and I'd encourage you to go online to see if ICE approaches you. There's a certain warrant that they have to produce, and if they don't have that warrant with the right signature and the right document, you do not have to open the door. And same thing with FBI. If they don't have a warrant to enter your space, you do not have to open the door. So I would not open a door for your private home, even for your masjid. There's rules where if law enforcement comes here, you can respectfully ask them to leave, unless they have a warrant, of course, and they can produce that. Otherwise, they shouldn't be in our private spaces. Yeah.
So before I ask you to ask us if there's anything you'd like to share with us before you go, so that was a very thorough connection of domestic issues with foreign born or those who are traveling. Do you ever talk about CAIR or any of the organizations that you come in contact with of better Muslim relationships with different Muslims, especially like the indigenous Muslims, African American Muslim community, and how we can create this model community to protect us with the laws that we do have? Because there's a lot of issues that come into the Muslim community that are affected by Muslims because they're coming in and those who are here. But I wonder, is there like any discussion in relation to like how we can build our own community? I know there was a big issue down in Plano, Texas, about trying to create the Sharia towns and all that stuff. But I know us being here as African American and all things that we've been through, being here as American or coming to be an American, I think it can help and assist other Muslims with some of the challenges that they have.
Yeah. I mean, the fact is definitely the Black Muslim community has faced and experienced a lot of this harassment and discrimination prior to the immigrant community that's been here. And the immigrant community in like Texas, for example, that's, building these new institutions is now like facing their own hatred and discrimination from Texans and anti-Muslim bigots. I mean, the American Muslim community, it's challenging. I mean, in Jersey, I can just speak about our own experiences here. Like, there are some, unfortunately, in some cases, like pockets and silos, and we don't always work well together. We have to do some more bridge building amongst ourselves. And like, you'll have like a South Asian masjid, then you'll have like the Turkish masjid, you'll have the Black masjid, then you'll have like the Palestinian masjid, and so on. And it's like, I think the next younger generation, our generation, and the future, inshallah, will hopefully build those bridges and break those walls down. I mean, we realize that this is our home. These cities, these towns are our future, and we have to invest in that future. And so that requires a little bit of effort from everyone to participate and reach out to each other, support each other in different ways. And I think CAIR has a role in that. CAIR has a responsibility to uplift the community and to be able to connect people and to offer services to everyone that needs it. So I do think that there's a lot of work to be done in this front. And as for the anti-Muslim racism and bigotry that we're seeing across the country, like in Texas and Florida and even in Dearborn and whatnot, we're not seeing it to that extent in Jersey, but there are Islamophobes. Like, for example, the year prior, we were at a CAIR banquet in Camden, right out of Philly. And the CAIR Philadelphia office was actually hosting their banquet in the New Jersey area. And there was a lineup of Islamophobes and anti-Muslim bigots right outside the banquet protesting CAIR's event and saying horribly racist, like disgusting things that I wouldn't repeat here. And there was probably about like maybe 10 or 15 people out there with signs and screaming and shouting and bullhorns and whatnot. Yeah, and there was law enforcement to keep things, controlled. But it's a reminder that, even here in our state, like that's a reality that, Muslims have to go through. And so you have Muslims going into this venue. That event had about like 500 or 600 people. And right outside, it's like these crazy Zionists, Islamophobes, saying horrible things about our deen, about our Prophet. And it's like, even in a very blue, liberal, progressive state like Jersey, that is still an issue. And so we all have a responsibility to, address that. And there's unique ways. I mean, even the masajid, they do dawah, right, and education, which is one primary way to combat ignorance, right? I always say Islam, I should say like fighting Islamophobia, sure, CAIR does it through the courts and does through the media and does through advocacy work, but the best way for the average person to fight Islamophobia and ignorance is by just being a pious, proud, practicing Muslim. Your pride and your unapologetic Muslim character and the way you conduct yourself, that's the best way to fight ignorance of our religion. People convert to Islam because they admire the character of the Muslims that they know. And it is through our existence in these cities and towns that people learn about this religion, and they can dispel the stereotypes, and they say, hey, I respect this person. They have And there's so much, even amongst the young people, like a great respect for Islam. And we're seeing it even in the public schools, like there's a curiosity for Islam. And I know a brother who teaches world religions at a public university here in New Jersey. And I'm telling you that his students, they cannot wait till they get to the unit on Islam. He teaches Buddhism, Hinduism, Taoism, Judaism, Christianity, Islam. And the students are all average, like non-Muslims, right? Americans from all walks of life, and they're mostly non-Muslim. And they're so intrigued and curious about Islam. And they have so many like genuine questions about this religion. And it's like their fascination is, that's where it's located, you know? And yeah, they want to learn more. They can see through the smoke and the racism and the attacks that Zionists are throwing at us or racists are throwing at us. Like, you know, they see that's nonsense, right? That's a distraction. And they respect what Muslims in Gaza are going through and how they continue to have faith. They respect their Muslim friends that they know here in New Jersey. And mashallah, the deen is growing fast in America and around the world. And it's our responsibility to continue that momentum and to be the best models that we can be. And yeah.
Anything else you'd like to share with us before we go?
Alhamdulillah, I mean, look, this is, you know, I'm Jazakallah for the invitation again. You know, really an honor, alhamdulillah, to be here. And mashallah, you know, one of the oldest institutions in our state, you know, for Islam and Muslims. And, you know, this is a rich history and culture that we should, and especially now during this month, Muslim Heritage Month, you know, we have to shine some light on this history. So I appreciate that. The ad was awesome, and I love seeing the flag, because that's a history that like not a lot of Muslims know about, right? And that should, you know, we should share that, you know, and see like this is all about legacy building. Everything that we do today, we did it because of those that came before us, right? And we stand on the shoulders of giants. And you know, this center and many others like it paved the way for our community, alhamdulillah. So we made dua for those who have passed away. And we continue to persevere and fight for justice here in America to improve the conditions of our people and, you know, fight for a better world for all people. But Jazakallah for having me.
And we also thank you and CAIR for the help and support of our dear Imam who we lost, and the support you all did for advocating to try to get us justice and answers and all the things that you've done for other Muslims, inshallah. So that's our show today. Alhamdulillah, we thank you all for joining in. Who's going to close us out? You got us? Okay, alhamdulillah. Until next time, as mentioned, this is Muslim Heritage Month. We have a series of events. We do actually have a Muslim Day at Muslim Youth Students Day at City Hall coming on Tuesday, inshallah. So make sure you register from 9 to 3. And then on Friday, we actually having a flag raising down at City Hall as well. And then we have an honorable honoring the pioneers towards the end of the month, January 24th, inshallah, at the public library downtown. You got it?
Assalamualaikum, we're about to close out. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Ar-Rahmanir-Rahim. Maliki Yawmiddin. Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in. Ihdina as-siratal mustaqim. Siratal ladhina an'amta alayhim. غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين. السلام عليكم.
وعليكم السلام. Now, in concluding this, when the slave traders and the black traders of Africa, traitors, different, traitors, when the slave traders and the traitors of Africa called themselves Muslims, were fighting each other and carrying on and weakening their people over there so that the white traders come in there and get us, take us on slave ships and bring us here. Now, all right? Yeah. So now, when all that happened, what you think was happening to our human soul? Let me tell you, God has given me an eye to see into the very abstract form of the human being. by my study of the Quran. Yes. Now, I'm going to tell you what was happening. I know, as if I was there. The soul of those victims had given up on this world. They knew they were going to their death. They knew they were going to circumstances that were going to finish them off. They would never have their lives again. They knew that. But in their soul, they were saying, our children will one day be free again, and they will serve God. We have failed, but our children will one day serve God. And now their prayer that they prayed in the deep recesses of their soul has come true. And not only are the descendants of the black people of Africa from Islam coming to Islam, taking up the divine cause, but those who never were Muslims, their children from Christianity, their children from Judaism, their children from paganism are embracing Islam in America. And we are going to build new Africa. New Africa, right here in the United States. Allahu Akbar. And the soul of those suffering victims, they're rejoicing because of us here today.